What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Frenzy podcast. My name is Benjamin Pedalero. It is week 4. I'm here, as always, with my very special co-hosts, Robert Armstrong and Tyler Mastro Marino. Boys, how we doing?
Thursday night games are interesting. Have a lot going on in the NFL this week, so.
We do.
Yeah,
Tyler?
and me and Rob are 3-0, so we're quite happy right now.
Listen.
Rob sounds disappointed.
Listen, I don't want to hear it.
We made fun of Ben last episode, so.
I don't want to hear it. We already went over that. We're on to Cincinnati.
Keep bringing it up.
Come on. Anyway, yeah, lots to talk about this week. Right off the bat, we have our first COVID-impacted game. Well, kind of 2 impacted games. One of them's been postponed. But Rob, I know we said you're going to go ahead and jump into that. So what do you got?
Yeah, so the Titans obviously tested positive like right after the game with the Vikings. And we weren't sure. Rumors were going to be that it was going to be played Monday night instead of Sunday to give the teams an extra day of practice because they haven't been able to get to their facilities yet. And then it was rumored to even be Tuesday. However, this morning, I think 3 Titans players and staff, I think 1 player, 2 staff or something like that. It was either 2 or 3 tested positive still, or new players had come to the light with testing positive. So they have officially canceled that game, and it is now a bye week for the Titans and Steelers because the Steelers had played the Titans. I think no word on the Vikings yet. It didn't seem like they had a lot of people test. They had like no one test positive right away. The fact that they played the Titans last week, obviously it could spread pretty easily. So still watching that one. However, and I don't think it's official yet, but Matthew Berry did say that it's leaning towards changing the bye weeks around because it is only 2 teams affected as of now, and they had remotely similar bye weeks. So they're going to play week 7 because that was the Steelers' original bye week, and the Titans originally had week 8. But now they're going to move the Ravens versus the Titans to week 8, which was supposed to be originally week 7, and then it all works out essentially that way. So it's just a little bit earlier in bye week, so that's going to affect any of your Steelers and Titans players. If you have those players, you're probably already aware of this, but they are officially projected 0 now. Originally it said postponed, but they still have projections.
Yeah.
So now we don't have to worry about what a Tuesday night game is because technically fantasy scores go official Monday night. You obviously win your games Monday night. No one was really sure how Tuesday night was going to affect it and all the waivers. So we don't have to worry about that now, at least this week.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously, the NFL took the right approach with this. Obviously, the biggest priority is the health and safety of the players and staff and everybody. You don't want anyone bringing that home. As far as fantasy implications go, I think you kind of spoke to this already, Rob, but, big names like Derrick Henry, James Conner, Juju, there were a lot of questions leading up to them actually, postponing the game. We had Rob, you brought up a rule that we were going to implement in our league. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I saw it on Twitter. So this was back, obviously, yesterday when there hadn't been more tests, but they weren't sure if it was going to be Monday, Tuesday, or postponed. So obviously the Thursday night game is on right now as we're recording. We're watching it now. I know someone in our league who had James Conner, and his best, basically a person on the bench to fill in that flex spot that James Conner was currently sitting in as a potential postponed player was Jerry Jeudy. Now, obviously, if the COVID cases didn't come out this morning, and obviously we're still waiting on an answer from the NFL maybe into tomorrow, you start Jerry Jeudy on Thursday, and then if the game does go on Tuesday, you just miss James Conner's points. And obviously we didn't want to do that because that's kind of unfair. So at least it seems like everyone's okay with this going forward. You start the player that's potentially postponed. This is like if it's still potentially postponed, you start them. You say on Thursday, this player will be my backup if this game doesn't go on, because obviously it's too late to then move them into the slot because the game would have already happened. You say, this player is now my postponed player or whatever. And then your league manager goes in and manually updates it on Monday night and puts those points into your starting lineup points, essentially, because you can't do it. So that was what we talked about, and I saw it on Twitter, and I thought it was a good rule. So yeah, that's something to think about going forward. If the games actually are this postponed, not postponed, postponed, not postponed, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen again. I don't know where the exposure came from. I don't even know if they released that information. But obviously it's good that, they jumped right on that and took care of it. And I think as of right now, nothing's happening with the Vikings and Texans game, right? That's still obviously
I think they're still waiting. I think they need another negative from all the Vikings players. Obviously, the Texans are fine, but I think they just need like one more negative from those whatever Vikings players, and then that game will be fine. I don't think that game's gonna be effective. But one thing to note, maybe fantasy wise, if you do have a Vikings player, just know that they are practicing like a day less as of now. They still aren't allowed back in their facilities.
Mhm.
So like it could be like Justin Jefferson was a big waiver pickup as we mentioned last episode.
Yeah.
He obviously doesn't get to practice with Thielen and Kirk Cousins another week. So who knows how that's going to shake out and stuff like that. Texans are a good defense as well. So basically, Texans have more planning time than the Vikings do as of now.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, Tyler, I know we did our waiver video earlier in the week, but for people that have the Derrick Henrys or the James Connors or Juju, and people who don't have a good substitute on their bench, is there anyone on the waivers now that could be a good person to slot in, do you think?
There are a couple really deep guys that I like, and one of them's actually in the Thursday night game because, to be honest, with all the injuries and these COVID issues, there are not a lot of guys available right now.
I know.
And for me, I am desperate to start running backs. I'm looking anywhere. I'm looking clear backup running backs that I'm going to start. A few guys to name, some guys like Adrian Peterson, Latavius Murray. For me, if any of the Patriots running backs are available, I'm taking a chance on them because I know they're playing the Chiefs, but they like to run the ball against the Chiefs. And it's anybody's guess who the next Pats running back is going to be.
Exactly.
An extra, I guess Detroit's kind of the same way as well, where I know Kerryon Johnson can get in the game here and there, get a goal line carry, which is important. But there's not a lot of running backs I feel super strong about, just a lot of guys that you have to take a chance on, and most of them are backups.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's, unfortunately, that might be the theme the theme of the season. Hopefully we don't have another COVID missed game like this, but
I will say there's one benefit, and it's something I think I point out only because it's personally affects me and my team with the Derrick Henry. So I had Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, and they had the same bye week, and those are obviously two stud top 10 running backs. This bye week being pushed up for Derrick Henry early actually now negates that, so now they're not on the same bye week, which is just very nice there. So it further spreads apart the bye weeks. So if you want to take one positive out of it, now your bye weeks, if you do have someone on these two teams, are now a little bit more spread out from other teams.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point there. Definitely a problem that you try to, avoid at the draft. Obviously, sometimes it's unavoidable. So that I guess that worked out in your favor.
Yeah.
Now I kind of want to.
If I lose, then it doesn't work out. But
yeah, true. Now we'll kind of jump into the week 4 games. Obviously, Thursday night football going on right now, like Rob said. Broncos in New York facing the Jets at MetLife. 10-10, about to go into halftime. No boat this week.
No
boat.
Brett
Rob, you're not
Rippin.
happy about it.
I don't think Tyler or I are happy about it.
No, the world's not ready for boat yet.
True. The world was ready for Jerry Jeudy, though. He disrespected the DB for the Jets on that touchdown. And I think Melvin Gordon just got a touchdown. Actually, we're giving the score recap, so it's actually now like 17-10, 16-10, 17-10, whatever. I don't want to assume an extra point.
And I think those are about the only two guys I would hope would crack the starting lineups of any fantasy team. But Jerry Jeudy, a little more of a stretch. Yeah, Noah Fant as well, sorry.
Melvin don't Gordon, give Rob the satisfaction.
A very good matchup this week for Melvin Gordon. So if this turns out to be a score, which it is, it just got reviewed and now it's confirmed a touchdown. So he's looking to add on to a good day.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll keep the extra point was good, but we'll keep updating this game as we go. First game on Sunday, we'll dive into New Orleans Saints going to Detroit to take on the Lions at 1:00. Rob, I guess you can go ahead and start digging into this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of the Lions yet. They've looked really good at times, and they've looked really bad. Obviously, like all you can think about is that week 1 drop that would have now put them 2-1 instead of 1-2, and maybe we're having a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing Tyler did note is AP did break out last week as somehow the clear number 1 in terms of rushing attempts between him, Kerryon, and DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift did get more involved in the passing game So if you did draft him on a hope and a prayer, just to hope that he took over the starting job as I did in one of my leagues, I wouldn't drop him yet. He's still getting quite involved in the passing, and obviously AP is quite old. So in a legacy league like ours, or that would, if you want to call it legacy or dynasty league, he's still a potential keeper as of now. But I honestly think even if we're not looking at those deep guys that we're talking about COVID, just AP was a good pickup if you do have him. And the Saints, they're giving up a lot of points. I mean, they're 1-2 for a reason. Yeah. They're scoring a lot and they're giving up a lot of points. So AP might not actually be a bad start if you're looking deeper down into the flex spot here, especially if you had a James Conner or a Derrick Henry.
Yeah, definitely. And then we'll kind of shift back to the Saints. I don't think Michael Thomas is returning this week, is he? I don't think so.
He's planning on it. He wants to.
He practiced on a limited basis today. I know that, but I don't think they've actually said he's returning this week.
Same as questionable, which I think under the new injury stuff basically means they're playing. Questionable is essentially playing, and doubtful is out. They just because they shrunk down that injury list. But I mean, who knows? It could be a last minute complication or something.
Yeah, I mean, even if I was going to say, go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say Michael Thomas is one of those guys who is not going to want to sit out a game if he's even got a shot at playing. I think he's going to barter with the coaches, and I think he's going to end up getting in the game. That's just my early prediction.
Yeah, and obviously you're going to roll. This is a really appealing matchup for Alvin Kamara. Anyway, you're going to start him no matter what. He's obviously the clear-cut RB1 right now in the whole league. Fair to say that the Lions held Kenyon Drake to a quiet week last week, but they also got shredded by Aaron Jones the week before for 168 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 through the air. So you got to assume that Alvin Kamara is going to have his way in Detroit. I even have Latavius Murray as a start this week. I think he's going to get his time out there, and just given how bad the Detroit run defense is. Obviously Kamara is going to feast, and I think Latavius Murray can be started in flex territory in 10, 12-man leagues.
Yeah, he got 12 attempts last week, and then obviously, like you said, a strong running back like that, if you want to compare him to Aaron Jones in a sense, is a possibility. One person I did stash in another league was Traquan Smith. So in a deeper 10 to 12-man league, if you have an extra bench spot right now, especially if you just sent someone to IR because of all the injuries, and you have that extra bench spot open up, I've just stashed Traquan Smith because if Thomas is a no-go, he instantly becomes a potential flex starter. Had a good week last week for 4 receptions, 42 yards, but overall he's just had a better season and seems to be that number 2. Kind of. I mean, Drew Brees hasn't been able to throw the ball recently, but better than Emmanuel Sanders, which is not what I thought coming into the season. So that's just someone to stash in case Michael Thomas is a no-go for this game.
Ben, I'd like to back you up with Latavius Murray there. I think he's going to be the running back 1 for the Saints because Kamara is basically the wide receiver 1.
True.
In the league in receiving yards right now. Why not roll both of them out there?
No, that's what I said. I had obviously Kamara's a start, no question. I had Latavius Murray as a flex start this week, especially given the loss at running back right now. I was actually going to ask you about Emmanuel Sanders, though. Obviously, very quiet for him last week. What are you, Tyler? Are you starting him this week, benching him, or maybe a flex spot? What are you thinking?
Definitely not starting him. Avoiding a flex play if possible. I mean, some teams are desperate, so you might start him. I think in general, this game's going to be pretty high scoring, but he just hasn't been crazy involved. I know he got a touchdown on the year, but he still has not looked good. He hasn't caught up to speed with that offense. And if Michael Thomas is back, I'm not even considering starting him. I would drop him. But if Michael Thomas is out, if you're super desperate, that's the only way I would start him.
Yeah, definitely. And Rob,
I just like Traquan Smith's upside more. I don't know why. Maybe it's just him. I'm not. Emmanuel Sanders just look bad too. He has a few drops on top of not being targeted that much. He just has a few drops on that look bad when watching the game.
Yeah, for sure. Now we'll kind of transition into the Chargers at the Buccaneers. Tom Brady and his boys looking for their 3rd win in a row, 3rd out of 4 games this year. Austin Eckler, though, I know we kind of talked about him last week. He's back into his past catching form. Rob, how do you see that going this week against the Buccaneers defense?
Yeah, I think just overall, I think both Joshua Kelly and Austin Eckler are still studs. As long as Justin Jackson stays out, I actually haven't looked at his availability for this game, but it says status active, but I don't know if that just means he's out. But still, it looks like he, could remain to see how much work he get in week 4. That's the only thing I'm nervous about is obviously Austin Eckler's a start no matter what, just because of his pass catching ability. Even out of the backfield, doesn't. And honestly, these running backs like Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, a few other ones, the pass catching ones, I don't think the opponent matters too much because at the end of the day, they're going to get the receptions. Honestly, a good defense is probably better for them. They may lose their touchdown value, but they get so many of these dump off passes. Obviously, it depends on if Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert's going because Justin Herbert seems to like Eckler a little bit more. But yeah, no, I think as long as if Justin Jackson's playing this week, Joshua Kelly becomes iffy start because I think the actual runs are going to be spread between the three. But Eckler stays solid because of just that pass catching ability.
Yeah, for sure. And then on the Buccaneers side, Tyler, Chris Godwin not playing or looking like he's not playing this week. He's listed as doubtful. I mean, I don't see him playing this week, or they have the quick turnaround of the Thursday night game. I got to imagine they're going to try and just save him for week 6. So then that leaves Mike Evans, obviously, and Scotty Miller. Mike Evans, obvious start. What about Scotty Miller, Tyler? What are you thinking with him?
I'm going to go no with Scotty Miller as well, just because I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. And Fournette's going to be out. I think they're going to try and feed Ronald Jones the ball as much. Gronk got involved last week with 7 targets. So, seems Tom Brady's already looking other ways other than Scotty Miller. But for now, I'm going to sit Scotty Miller, and I'm going to wait to see if Brady goes back to him. I'm waiting till Scotty Miller has a big game before I start him again.
Yeah, it's hard. He's missing that touchdown this year. And he's kind of gone boom, bust. First game, 73 yards. Second game, 11 yards. Third game, 83 yards. No touchdowns on any of them. So without those touchdowns, he's not getting it's not like he's catching 10 balls a game. He's just there as of right now. And I think I agree with you, Tyler, there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's really all there is to dig into this game. I mean, it's going to be high scoring. It's going to be a shootout.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so at all.
Interesting. Okay. I do, but I'll hear your side first.
I mean, Brady just has a way of managing games. Their offense with Chris Godwin isn't going to be as high flying. They've looked very systematic as of right now. Chargers got a good defense. Bucs got a phenomenal run defense. And even though Herbert's slinging the ball a lot, I still think the Chargers offense really flows to their running backs. Keenan Allen isn't going to get as many targets this week as he did last week. But him and Hunter Henry are the two obvious options to me, but the Bucs defense has looked really good as of late. And I think the Chargers their defense has underperformed up until now. I got that gut feeling it's going to be a low scoring game.
Okay.
The Bucs, so they left 34 to the Saints.
Yeah.
But then they held the Panthers and the Broncos to 17-10. But obviously the Broncos went from Driscoll to Rippon.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to judge the Buccaneers now. This is a game if the Chargers go and put up points and Tyler, you're just completely wrong, then I think the Buccaneers defense is just bad. But I really think you're right, though. I think it will be low scoring because the Chargers defense looked really good. I mean, holding Kansas City to 23 only is not bad. And that was in overtime. So I don't know. This game could go either way. I think it could be ugly. Herbert has looked good, but I mean, it's a rookie. It's a rookie. You just don't know how a rookie's going to come into a game each week.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that point. I guess we'll have to wait and see what Brady has up his sleeve. Anyway, now we can move into the Jaguars and the Bengals game. Thriller game for this one. Gardner Minshew and team going out to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. We'll start with the Bengals first. Obviously, Joe Burrow looking pretty good in the past few weeks, putting up a lot of yards and touchdowns. But I want to start with the wide receivers. Obviously, Tyler Boyd seems to be taking over as the wide receiver one for this team. But what are you thinking about AJ Green, Rob, for this week?
He just hasn't looked good, has he? Like, it's weird though. So obviously, what comes to mind is that Cleveland game: 13 targets, only 3 catches. But we said that won't happen again, and then it didn't happen again. He got 6 targets last week for only 5 catches and 36 yards. So hasn't found the end zone this year. T. Higgins has come out as a good receiver. Ben, you talked about him last episode as a waiver pickup. So more competition. AJ Green is still good enough to demand that number 1 coverage. Jaguars defense hasn't been incredible, to say the least. They've gone hit and miss. I mean, they're just not good. They let up 31 points to Miami, 33 points to Tennessee, 27 to the Colts. I mean, they just haven't looked good. And that was Philip Rivers' first game for the Colts as well. So just not a good defense. So, I mean, it's AJ Green. It's weird. It's so hard to tell because there is starter value there. And they hadn't looked good. And he at least was catching more passes and Joe Burrow was finding him. That Browns game, Joe Burrow was just overthrowing AJ Green nonstop. So I think he's kind of dialed it in with him. But there is so many receivers there that they could spread the ball around a lot.
Yeah, and then for the Jaguars side, I have James Robinson as a start this week. He's played phenomenal the past few weeks. And then on the wide receiver side, it looked like DJ Chark was going back to practice in a limited capacity. They haven't said whether or not he'll play this week. So then that kind of leaves Keelan Cole. Tyler, what are you feeling for this offense this week for starts, and who are you kind of avoiding against the Bengals?
If DJ Chark plays, I'm not going to start him yet, but that's a big boost for Gardner Minshew because with DJ Chark in the lineup, Gardner Minshew has looked that much better. He's been spreading the ball out great, and he's a great streaming option and just gets a big boost with DJ Chark in the lineup. I'm definitely staying away from guys like Keelan Cole, just because he's not a proven guy. Gardner had a rough week last week, and I need his number 1 receiver back before I start anybody.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually starting Gardner Minshew this week in one of my other leagues. I had Big Ben. Obviously, we just talked about the Steelers going down, and all that stuff. So I actually am starting just because of what Baker Mayfield was able to do against this Bengals defense. Just toasted them for 35 points and a bunch of touchdowns, and actually it made the Browns look like what the Browns offense should be, given all the talent. So I think with the way that Minshew's been playing this year, I mean, he has 6 touchdowns, 787 yards. So what he's been playing, if Baker Mayfield and that Browns offense can put together, I think the Jaguars can too. Obviously, it does hurt if Chark isn't able to go. I'm under the assumption he will because he's questionable and has been practicing. At least enough to get on the field a few times, maybe not like a full rep that you normally would get. But I do also like Laviska Shenault a little bit, not as actual starter option, just to help out Gardner Minshew. So I am starting Gardner Minshew this week in one of my leagues.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good take. This next game, the Vikings at the Texans, I'm excited to dig into a little bit. I think there's a lot of moving parts in this game.
Ben, real quick, before we go to the next game, can we talk about Joe Mixon's last opportunity here?
Yes, actually, that's a great point. This is a great opportunity for him to prove that he's going to do it this year. This defense has not been good against the run at all. If he doesn't make it happen this week, I do not know what to tell you with Joe Mixon.
No, but you're toast.
That's my.
He plays Baltimore and Indy next week. Those are going to be obviously dud weeks. You need him to have a big week so you can at least hold on to him or try and get some trade value out of him with some light at the end of the tunnel. But he's got Baltimore, Indy, then Cleveland, and he only had 86 yards against Cleveland, which isn't good. This is our last hope for Joe Mixon. Everyone pray with me.
If I'm a Joe Mixon owner, I probably would have tried to trade him last week for anything I could have got.
I did say though that this week was coming up though. So you did. If you are thinking about trading him and you get a guy that just goes off of we know a few of these people, I'm not going to mention names, but go off the week before when they're doing their trades, then you hope for Joe Mixon great game, but in the back of your head, even if he has a great game, he's still traded no matter what. You're just hoping he has a great game to bring out that value up for 1 week.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully this is a week you can quote unquote sell high on him. But but it all come down to his Sunday performance. So we'll just have to see off of that. Tyler, does that suffice your itch to talk about Joe Mixon?
No. I want to talk about how he sucks.
I got
killing
you.
me. The Bengals O-line is killing me. All right. Next game.
Yeah, and the game script and play calling, but that's a different discussion. Yeah, so the Vikings at the Texans, like I was saying before, there's a lot of moving parts with this game, and I'm not sure. I think I want to start with the Vikings. Aside from the fact of the COVID worries, which doesn't seem
the biggest moving part is this game even happening as of now.
but it doesn't seem like there's going to be any. It doesn't seem like it's going to be postponed.
No.
Once the COVID tests come back, I assume we'll find out more information tomorrow or definitely by Saturday. Looking at the offense first, though, Dalvin Cook, obviously a start if they play. But I more want to talk about Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Obviously, Justin Jefferson had a great week last week. Adam Thielen, average week. How do you see these two working together moving forward? Adam Thielen's still the wide receiver one on that team, obviously, but how do you think Justin Jefferson kind of stakes his own claim moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's value in both of them, which is funny to say given that the QB is Kirk Cousins in 2020. There is value there. Obviously, it's interesting to see. What I would think is that Adam Thielen's gonna be your short route. Adam Thielen's maybe the best route runner in the entire NFL. He's so clean on those routes, so he gets open on short yardage routes quite often. So I would expect to see him getting the majority of the targets. He did have 8 targets week 1, 8 targets week 2, 5 week 3. So he does get quite a bit of targets for a wide receiver. But Justin Jefferson actually got 9 targets last week. But seems to be more that deep threat speed option, kind of like just not a Tyreek Hill, but it is a Tyreek Hill in a sense. The long threat. He had 7 catches for 175 yards. That is a long threat. Had a 71-yard touchdown as well to go along with that. Mm-hmm. So I think there's value in both. I did just re-pick up Justin Jefferson after dropping him. So that was good. A waste of my fab budget.
Oh, I didn't even see that I didn't even see that you dropped him.
So I dropped him 2 weeks ago now, I guess, and then picked him up right after the game last week. Just because I wanted him on my team. I had to drop for not an injury, but I think when I was picking up Myles Gaskin originally the first time, I dropped him. So I re-picked him back up because I think there is value there, and I think all these rookies, the second they have a breakout game, you watch the next week. I'm not starting him or anything like that. I'm still starting other people instead of him. Yeah. But if that connection sticks there and the rookies start to connect it with their QBs, then I think there's value for both. Because the Vikings offense should be better than what it is. Even with Kirk Cousins, I think Kirk Cousins is a game manager and can spread the ball around still. Also throw 100 picks, but still get. I've won with him in the past. He does get a ton of the fantasy points because he throws for a bunch of yards, gets a bunch of touchdowns, just has the turnover. So as a NFL QB, it's not great, but as a fantasy QB, he's pretty good and pretty good to his wide receivers as well. So there's value.
Yeah, definitely. And on the Houston side, I kind of think this is going to be where they turn the ship, honestly. Really difficult start for them. I don't know who created this schedule, but they were not
schedule.
They were obviously against Texans or against the Texans. The Chiefs week 1, Baltimore week 2, and then Pittsburgh week 3. And the worst benefactor of that, I guess, would be David Johnson. Especially in Baltimore and Pittsburgh. 2 of the top run defenses in the league. I just think Deshaun Watson, especially without DeAndre Hopkins this year, has had a really tough start to the year. Combine the skill set there with Minnesota is not the defense that it used to be by any means. I think that this could be the week that they turn the ship around and, get on a winning path.
Last time they started 0-3, the Texans finished 11-5 and won their division. And they got all their division games left. David Johnson has yet to have a monster game. I know he played good against KC week 1, but they were kind of down and out of that game. Deshaun Watson really hasn't put together a good game either. He's got to look to bounce back. He was kind of my dark horse to win MVP this year. Obviously, that's not happening with guys like Russell Wilson and Josh Allen ahead of him. But he's got a lot of better days ahead of him. I'm expecting a lot more big games out of Deshaun Watson now that the
Yeah.
tougher games are out of the way.
And then I think that they're expecting for David Johnson, I think they're expecting Duke Johnson back this week. They're monitoring that. But, I mean, usage-wise, David Johnson's been getting between 10 and 15 carries a game. He does have 2 rushing touchdowns on the year. So, I mean, not a terrible start for him by any means going into week 4. So I think the floodgates could really open for him this week. Again, like I said, this isn't the Vikings defense that we've known in previous years. So I think they're going to be able to exploit the gaps and, play the style of football that they want to play this week. Rob, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I was just staring at their wide receivers trying to figure anything out because obviously I have Will Fuller and who knows if he's playing. He gets added to the injury sheet every week as soon as we go to record the podcast. And someone mentioned it this morning, or not this morning, before we started, but I actually didn't realize this was their receiver core. It sounds like every single person that's ever been somewhat decent in fantasy, but also somewhat injured. Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, and Randall Cobb. I mean, that is just like the epitome of potential good weeks and then potential concussion protocol in the same week. So I don't know what to make of their offense. It should fire. Again, the Vikings, I think, are the 31st fantasy defense right now, which I know they were actually a defense that was drafted because they were good last year. Obviously, that goes along with the offense being bad. But I think what you said from the start is this is Houston's time to turn it around. Tyler read that stat off of that was literally right in front of us from the Thursday night game. That was good timing of that stat. As soon as we started talking, it was as soon as you started bringing up that game up, that stat popped up, which is perfect timing because it goes along with everything we said. This is their turnaround game, and I think the offense will turn around. And if Will Fuller's out, look Brandon Cook's way because I think he's gonna have a big week. I think someone's going to have a big week on that offense with Deshaun Watson.
And speaking of defenses that are not the same as they used to be, that'll take us right into the Seahawks and Dolphins game. Ryan Fitzpatrick could have a good week this week. I think
Absolutely.
At home, the Seahawks are coming to Miami. Devontae Parker's healthy in the way the Seahawks defense is looking. I think, I have Devontae Parker as a start this week. I think that those two could really connect and do some damage this week, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Him and Mike Gesicki as well. He's going to get involved this week. The Seahawks are going to put up a lot of points, and their defense is brutal. Fitzpatrick is a guy that, in my 10-man league, I picked up. I'm starting him over Gardner Minshew and Tom Brady. Those guys were also available on the waiver wire. I'm a Ben Roethlisberger owner, so I'm benching him. But even at that, if Roethlisberger was playing, I might start him. Might start Fitzpatrick over Roethlisberger. So I got high projections for him this week.
Yeah, definitely.
Magic.
Yeah, the beard.
And then obviously, you're rolling out Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. Especially given the matchup and the way Russell Wilson's playing, he's just getting the ball anywhere and everywhere. It's actually funny. I think DK Metcalf tweeted out today that Tyler Lockett was the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. And I mean, you look at his numbers, and I mean, I wouldn't say he's definitely underrated for the kind of production that he puts up. I mean, I think a lot of it's attributed to Russell Wilson, and then he gets kind of dampened by the names of Julio Jones, Devontae Adams. And I think, and I think he definitely has the skill and the production, but maybe the big flash hasn't been there for him over the years.
Yeah, he's never been like a big name wide receiver. He's always been like that guy that's like that slot receiver that's just going to get you a ton of catches and move the ball, almost like an Edelman situation. I think he just gets less credit than Edelman because Edelman's had those kind of big moments in big games. So I'd put him around the Edelman. Like he's not going to go like win you a game and make those crazy catches that DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Odell makes. He's not going to go make those kind of catches, but he's going to be there when Russell Wilson needs to dump it out or find someone. He's just kind of always open, especially last week. I mean, geez, what a week he had.
I know. And then so now we'll look at the Browns at the Cowboys. I think we briefly spoke about this last week, but the Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Obviously, we're rolling both of them out, just because Nick Chubb's so good and Kareem Hunt's so valuable in the passing game. I think there's a good fantasy week to be had there out of both of them every week. Odell's an obvious start, and then Jarvis Landry. We kind of talked about him last time, Tyler. I think you and I went back and forth about him. He's really, his production hasn't been there, and we said you could probably drop him in like 10 to 12 man leagues.
Yeah, absolutely. I would drop him, but then again, for this week, if he's available, he's a potential streamer against Dallas and only Dallas. Dallas, I mean, they're one of those teams that who knows if they have a good defense. Leighton Vander Esch is out. They've played fantastic offenses so far. They got absolutely shredded by the Seahawks like everyone else. But I'm gonna go out and say that their defense isn't gonna be that good this year. Their passing defense specifically, they could get torched. The two guys that I'm looking at for streaming one of the streamers would be Jarvis Landry and OBJ. You're obviously starting, but even Austin Hooper, if you're desperate, he might get involved in the passing game. And this is going to be a real test for both teams. It's going to be a test for Dallas's defense and Cleveland's offense. Cleveland's passing offense specifically, because their running offense has had no problems when they're up. But they're definitely going to be playing from behind this game. They're going to be slinging the ball a lot more. Let's see what Baker Mayfield can do. I'm willing to start Jarvis Landry in a 12-man PPR flex.
Yeah, definitely. And then on the Cowboys side, obviously rolling out Zeke. Amari Cooper, you're starting. What about Mike? What are we thinking about Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, Rob? Are they somebody you can start this week?
I think so. I actually am starting CeeDee Lamb in a 10-man PPR league. That's again just down to I had Juju Smith-Schuster in that league, so obviously he's not playing. It's just another situation with this COVID game that's coming into play. And I have a few options, and I think I went with CeeDee Lamb. I'm between CeeDee Lamb and then Gaskin because it is a flex play right now. But the Browns, listen to this: 38 points against the Ravens. They let up 30 points to the Bengals, and then they let up 20 points to the football team. So Dallas is much better offense than the Bengals and the football team. Obviously not the Ravens, but it was week 1. Not a great defense with the Browns. Not amazing, not bad. But I think Gallup I find to boom or bust. You're obviously going to start Amari Cooper as the number 1 receiver on that team. Gallup had a good last week, an incredible last week, obviously. But I just think the value in a PPR league is with CeeDee Lamb over Gallup, because I think Gallup relies on the big play too much. But obviously had a good last week. But they're 50-50. So, I mean, if I doubt that they're available on your waivers, but if you had both of them on your bench and you're trying to pick one, I prefer CeeDee Lamb. Just has the upside of the rookie, and it looks like him and Dak are connecting even more each week. So that's my opinion. Obviously, Amari Cooper is the number 1 there and still the go-to starter. But if you are looking for one, I prefer Lamb over Gallup, but I think that's a preference thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of these guys, like the rookies, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Justin Jefferson, we're now heading into week 4, and maybe the first 3 weeks were kind of like their quote unquote preseason. They've had 3 weeks to kind of get acclimated, get used to the playbook, get used to their quarterbacks, get used to the feel of the NFL. Even so with Justin Jefferson last week, I was going to say, I think we'll start to see some of these players blossom. Now that we're heading into week 4 and they have some time under their belt. So I'll be interested to see how these guys do this week for sure. Obviously Jerry Jeudy looking all right with that big catch so far. Next game I want to talk about, though, Cardinals at the Panthers. I want to start with the Cardinals because I think this could be a game where Kenyon Drake could finally, arrive for the season. Excuse me. Obviously, the Panthers defense, again, is not what it used to be. One of the worst against the run this year. Kenyon Drake had a very quiet start to the year so far. Definitely not delivering on the draft capital that was used to get him. I was one of those people that drafted him, and I recently traded him. But I think this could be the week that he rips it apart. That or Kyler Murray is just going to run all around the Panthers, which would be perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I was trying to look at the rankings because I just wanted to see where Carolina had fit in the rankings, but I can't really see their bottom half, the 21st. It looked bad because I'm looking at their stats right now. They've only allowed 124 yards, rush yards allowed, but that actually ranks pretty low. I don't know if that's like weekly on average. I don't know what it is, but still, they rank lower. They just look weird sticking there. But no, I do agree with you. Obviously, you did trade Kenyon Drake after that last week that he had, and when you tweet it out, you have to follow it up strong. And you just didn't. But no, I do think this is a comeback week for him. Yeah, and then you have Mike Davis another week. Could be a good week for him.
Just for a disclaimer, I did receive Ezekiel Elliott back in the trade, in case anyone's wondering, which I'm very excited about. But anyway,
one more thing I want to see from Kenyon Drake too is a little more involvement in the passing game. He's getting a crazy amount of touches when they're up, but so far this year he's had 2, 2, and 1 for receptions. And for a starting running back on an offense that's that good, he needs to get more involved in the passing game.
Well, I think
Carolina's
that's largely
one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm all done.
I was just going to say, I think that's largely in part to the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is there taking a lot of the short passes, and then Kyler Murray using his legs is definitely hurting Kenyon Drake's gameplay this season. So,
yeah, again, I think the Kyler Murray legs, I think you touched on it there, is the biggest part of that, because when Kyler, obviously we're talking about these bad QBs love that dump off. Kyler Murray, instead of dumping it 1 yard to Kenyon Drake, is going to use Kenyon Drake as a lead blocker, run it himself, and try to make someone miss. And I think that's where because I was going to say Chase Edmonds isn't even really taking it because he only has 3 catches, and 2 catches. So it's not, they just don't throw to the running back very often. So I don't know if that's a Kenyon Drake thing or if that's a Kyler Murray runs it anytime that kind of opportunity. And they have 4 wide receivers that are decent. So if they're going to throw it short, there's the wide receivers open.
Yes. And then on the Panthers side, obviously Christian McCaffrey's still out. Mike Davis, you're going to roll him out this week, just given the matchup. I mean, the Cardinals defense has been terrible, not great. But with the way that the Panthers run their offense, you obviously want to get Mike Davis out there. DJ Moore, I have as a start as well. He's been fairly productive this year. Obviously, the wide receiver one, and Teddy Bridgewater likes throwing to him. Outside of that, I don't think I can start Curtis Samuel. I have him as a sit this week. He kind of took some of the rushing work too, but obviously he's not taking work away from Mike Davis, and he's not taking receiving work away from DJ Moore. So I'll definitely have him as a sit this week. Yeah. Tyler, I don't know if you have any input on that.
Robbie Anderson is a guy that I'm looking to start this week. He had a little bit of a down week last week, but I think the Chargers got a really good defense. They got a good secondary. They're good all around. And Robbie Anderson can stretch the field really well. I don't know who he's going to draw coverage from cornerbacks. But I think regardless, there's going to be a lot of open field for the wide receivers. And I think Robbie Anderson's definitely a flex start for me, more over Curtis Samuel, and he could have another boom game here.
I mean, we're talking about him like he's nothing. He's wide receiver 8 on the season right now.
Yep.
I mean, he had 114 yards and touchdown week 1 on 6 catches. Then he had 9 catches for 109 yards week 2. Obviously slumped last week, but I think that is due to the Chargers actually having a good defense this year and keeping the game close. So he just didn't get involved as much, but I don't know. I obviously DJ Moore is that number 1 guy, but it seems that Bridgewater likes Robbie Anderson more. I don't know if I'd even consider starting him over DJ Moore if I had both. I know someone in our league actually has both, and I think started both last week. But not a week I'd start both of them if I had both. But I don't know. Yeah. Before we go, would you go DJ Moore or would you go Robbie Anderson?
Ooh, I think I'm going Robbie Anderson just for more upside.
Yeah, I mean, DJ Moore's had similar targets.
Yeah, I was going to say Robbie Anderson definitely has the better opportunity for the long touchdown. But DJ Moore is such a reliable wide receiver. I guess given the matchup, I'll probably take Robbie Anderson, just, again, given the upside and the big play opportunity. He's going to get looks either way. So I guess I will...
And I guess what we should have said is whoever Patrick Peterson covers will go with the other guy.
That's a good point.
That's a good point too.
Because I imagine DJ Moore's going to take that coverage because he is the number one guy, but Rob Anderson has been a number one guy in the past in the Jets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know who Patrick Peterson will want to cover. But just go with the other guy. If you could figure it out ahead of time, go with the other guy. Because they actually are almost identical for targets on the season.
Yeah, for sure. Now we'll kind of look at the Colts at the Bears. I want to start with the Bears. Very excited that Nick Foles is going to be the starting quarterback. A lot of people say they feel bad for Mitch Trubisky. I kind of don't. I don't know why. Maybe guys I've just never had
the fact that you have one of the wide receivers that has not been good on.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't. I'm not a Bears fan. I don't know exactly what went down. I mean, I watched the game on Red Zone, but I mean, I've been saying it all year. Mitchell Trubisky, especially in the beginning of week one, I was like, what is this dude doing? I mean, he picked it up from there, but then obviously Nick Foles came in last week, and I've been praying for Nick Foles to come in, and it finally happened. So yes, I'm an Allen Robinson owner, and I think, he's going to be a huge benefactor from Nick Foles playing. I think Nick Foles is going to make the offense tighter. Obviously Terry Cohen's out, so David Montgomery is going to be the guy as if he already wasn't. I just think this offense clicks into a new gear under Nick Foles, and I'm excited to see what will happen this weekend.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited too about the offense. I think everyone's jumping ship a little bit, talking like Nick Foles is going to go back to Super Bowl form with these guys. Right now for Allen Robinson, I mean, it's a boost for sure.
Yeah.
Better than Trubisky, without a doubt. But Nick Foles, he orchestrated the comeback, but he didn't look fantastic. He was forcing the ball everywhere. He could have had a few more picks. And I'm not fully sold on this offense, especially against this Colts defense. I say that now that I'm not sold on that offense. But if Nick Foles comes out and they settle for they lose the game 20-6 with no touchdowns, I won't blame it on Foles because I think that Colts defense has been really good. I know this is coming off a Jets game that we're talking about.
Yeah, the Vikings game before that. But still, I was going to agree with that, Tyler. I wasn't going to slate the Bears at all. I think Nick Foles will eventually get the form again. It was his first game for the Bears. Good. You take the good and the bad in that one and just kind of move on. And this is an interesting one because I think this Colts defense is good. They haven't really played anyone good yet, but they've looked good. So I don't know. It's always tough when you have like three easier games to start off with. Is the defense good or is it just who you played? But either way, I'm not loving like really anyone in this game. I mean, obviously there are some starts like a Jonathan Taylor. You're not going to sit. Allen Robinson, you're going to start anyways.
David Montgomery, I'm starting as well, even though I think he's going to have a lot more value after these games. So if you can trade for him right after the Colts game, if he has a bad game, I think you should go out and try and trade for him.
Yep. Because I just think this can be a low-scoring defensive battle. And that obviously doesn't lead to good fantasy regardless of how many good players are involved.
Yeah. Now we'll look at the Ravens going to Washington to take on the football team. Obviously, Lamar Jackson and company coming off a loss last week at Kansas City, which surprised at least Rob and I. I don't know what your pick was for the game, Tyler.
Nope, I bet on the Chiefs. Easy money.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's hard when the Chiefs came off this pressing game.
After the game, Lamar Jackson said that Mahomes and the Chiefs were his kryptonite. It certainly seems like that because Mahomes is 3-0 against them. But I think moving forward, obviously, you're going to roll out Lamar Jackson. I want to talk about the running game, though. Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. The Washington defense has not been horrible against the run this year, so I might be slightly hesitant to start Mark Ingram this week. Obviously, you're not going to start J.K. or Gus Edwards. I think the pass catchers are going to be the way to go this week. Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. Rob, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the football team defense isn't amazing. 34 points against Cleveland, 30 against Arizona, 17 against Philadelphia. Not great.
Not great, but they've been fairly stout against the run so far.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
this has 125 points rushing yards allowed per game on average, but think they got shelled one week. So I don't. Again, they didn't look great against the running, but that was Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, a two-headed monster that's a little better than Ingram and J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
So I would be hesitant on Ingram. I'm not a huge Ingram fan as it is, anyways. He only had 7 rushes last week for 30 yards. Again, they did go down early to KC. But even before that, he only had 9 rushes. If he doesn't get a touchdown, he only had 55 yards. And then before that, he only had 29 yards against the Browns. I mean, he hasn't looked amazing any week. And obviously, J.K. is still the backup and isn't really being utilized in the run at all. I think he has 9 attempts or 10 attempts on the season running. So again, not starting them. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm not looking at Mark Ingram this week just because the football team defense running the ball is good enough, and he hasn't looked amazing just by himself as a whole.
Yeah, and I'll even back you guys up even further right now. Right now the spread is at 14 points, which means the experts are predicting the Ravens to win by at least 14. And when they do that, they love to give Gus Edwards and even J.K. Dobbins a couple carries here. And that backfield has been so unpredictable. It's probably good because it's been throwing teams off, but they could get out to an early lead, and that still doesn't bode well for Mark Ingram because they could just throw in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins every single drive. And I don't have a good feel for this game, and I would hope not to start anybody. But then again, if you're one of those guys that has an injured running back, has somebody that's got a postpone delay for the games, you can take a shot on one of these running backs if you're in a deep 12-man league.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with you there. Sorry.
Yeah, what about the running back on the side? Antonio Gibson. I was down on him last week. I wasn't sure what we were going to get from him. He did get a touchdown, but again, he's only 9 attempts for 49 yards. He hasn't his biggest game this year is 55 yards. J.D. McKissick kind of stepped in a little bit, took a few touches away from him. Gibson still looks like the starter, obviously, but not really excited to start him if I had to either. Obviously, the Washington football team is not the best offense around. No. They've looked better than I think people thought with Dontrell Inman and Terry McLaurin, but they haven't really been amazing. So I don't know if I'd even look at Antonio Gibson this way this week either, because they're going to go down early to the Ravens, as Tyler already mentioned, with all the spread and all that stuff. The Ravens are probably going to be dominating most of this game. So Washington football team. Yeah, for me, that makes me happy as a Terry McLaurin owner, just because I assume Haskins is just going to be slinging the ball around when they're down 21 after the first quarter. So.
For me, I feel like Gibson's going to be a very matchup dependent guy for the future. He's going to be a flex starter, obviously, maybe even push RB2 when he plays lower end teams, but he's going to be a touchdown dependent guy, I think. And against a team like Baltimore that they could get destroyed by, he needs a touchdown to save his day, and I don't think he's getting it this game.
Yes, I would agree with you. Now we'll look at the Giants going out to LA to take on the Rams. Obviously, the Giants without Saquon. Last week, no one really stood out. I think it's going to be Devonta Freeman's backfield moving forward once he gets used to the offense and the playbook and back in his groove. I just don't think it's going to be there for Gallman. Dion Lewis has not looked great. So I'm not saying I'm starting any of them this week. I'm sitting them all this week until Devonta Freeman can show he's used to the team and the playbook and can show us something. Rob, are you starting anyone on the Giants this week? Besides,
not unless someone holds a gun to my head and says you have to.
Yeah.
No, Darius Slayton could get some. I mean, he's not even that good. Like this year, he had that first week, obviously popped off and has done absolutely nothing since. Has total of 6 catches for 86 yards in the last 2 games combined. So, Darius Slayton's the only one maybe. Evan Ingram, Tyler shreds on him every week, so we know where he stands on that. Not really looking good this week
anymore. So we're good.
So there's that, and then obviously this is another situation where the Rams are the far better team, and anytime you have the far better team, running backs you just gotta stay away from, just because they're gonna be down a lot. I think Devonta Freeman has a better week than last week. He obviously was already the lead rusher last week with 5 attempts. I don't think he had the most rushes last week with 5 attempts. So that should tell you what it is. The lead rusher last week had 5 attempts. So stay away from the Giants.
Yeah.
With everything in your body.
Yeah, and then I'd rather take a shot on one of the Patriots backs that you have no idea about than anybody on the Giants.
Yeah. And then for the Rams, Darrell Henderson obviously is the guy right now. He looked great last week. Unsure if Cam Akers is coming back this week, but I still think even when he comes back, he's not going to immediately take the role from Henderson if he even does at all.
Yeah, not playing this week. As of 5 hours ago. Well,
Okay.
McVay said he doesn't expect him to play this week. As of
Yeah,
as of 5
I
hours ago.
assumed not, but
Yeah.
I kind of want to look at it from both angles anyway. But Malcolm, obviously, not someone I'm starting, especially if Akers does end up playing this week. I just think Darrell Henderson's looked too good, and the Rams know that, given where they drafted him. Obviously, you're going to roll out Cooper Kupp. Anyone else, Rob, on this Rams offense that you're going to start this week?
Again, I think that they're just going to dominate the Giants. So one of those situations where I like to start as many people as possible. But I wouldn't go as far as saying I'm starting like Van Jefferson or Josh Reynolds. But Robert Woods is, I think, a start as well, just because they're just good. I think this is like a Rams they lost last week in tough fashion, brought the game all the way back just to lose on a penalty call. That was the right call, but it was a tough one to call in that situation. So I think they're just going to go and just go to town on the Giants here. And so I'm starting Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, even maybe Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff, and depending on what your quarterback situation is, especially if you have like Big Ben, go pick him up, because I think this is a week that I think he's just going to go to town on the Giants.
Yep. Definitely.
What about Tyler Higbee?
Yeah, I always forget about the tight ends, but Higbee as well. But that's like a start every week almost, just because of Goff and tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, I'm looking at a couple guys that I'm deciding between to start right now. I got 3 guys. I got Higbee, I got Gesicki, and I got who's the last one? Give me a sec.
I mean, between those two, I know you like Gesicki this week. I know you like Gesicki this week because of the matchup. But again, it almost is the same matchup and situation, and I'd say more proven. Higbee's had just that one game where he popped off. But I don't know, because Gerald Everett is there, and they do spread the ball around just that little bit.
Yeah, but I'm obviously taking Higbee.
The third guy was T.J. Hawkinson as well.
Okay.
Which I'm not sure. I still think T.J. Hawkinson might be third on the list, but
maybe we come back to that question after we talk about T.J. Hawkinson and the Lions.
Yeah,
that is a tough start. If you can get any of those 3, I don't know. It's a flip of the coin almost, but you can't flip a 3-sided coin.
Towards Gesicki, but yeah, like you said, it could be they all have great days and they all finish within a point of each other.
Yeah. Now we'll talk about our hometown game. The Patriots, well, not at home. They're going out to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. This is always an exciting game, especially now that Patrick Mahomes is here. I was watching I was watching or reading an article today, and they were talking about who the biggest threat to the Chiefs would be this year. And my mind kind of went in 2 different directions. First off, I was like, wow, I'm weird. I'm not used to people not asking that about the Patriots. Like, obviously, the times have changed, and now the Chiefs are that team. And then secondly, there was a debate. I still think the Patriots are in it. They're definitely contenders. Cam Newton's playing well. The team is playing well, despite, Tom Brady moving on and the losses on the defensive side with opt-outs and injuries and whatever. I still think the Patriots can be the contenders. Obviously, the Bills look really good, but I don't think Josh Allen has that experience. And
I think that's going to come down to who wins the AFC East, because that's going to have the better matchup. Because whoever doesn't win the AFC East is probably going to have to play the Chiefs in the AFC semifinals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where it's going to go. But if the Patriots can win their division, then they become the clear number 2. Because I think both the Chiefs and after watching what Lamar Jackson and the Ravens looked like last week, I mean, I guess it's against the Chiefs, the best team probably in the league with the Seahawks. But I mean, I could easily see it being like AFC East. Whoever wins the AFC East makes it to the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
As of now, I mean, Steelers are still in there as well, but
yeah, for sure. And anyway, as far as this game, we'll start with the Patriots. Cam Newton, obviously, you got to start him with the way he's playing and the way he's rushing. Julian Edelman, you have to start him based off volume. What about the backfield, Tyler? What do you James White reported back to practice today, which
Yeah.
is obviously not good for Rex Burkhead. So
I
what are you
believe-
doing with this backfield?
Damian Harris is starting to come back to practice as well. I don't feel great about this backfield. I know I've talked about them a lot already, but you can definitely take a shot even on Sony Michel, JJ Taylor. James White's going to get involved. Rex Burkhead had his 3-touchdown game last week. I think that's the best you're getting out of him, without a doubt.
Ooh, timeout.
I just watched Noah Fant die.
Yep, carted off the field.
He put together a little bit of a week here. Missed a touchdown, but he put together enough of a
I was
week for
just
me not
gonna
to cry.
say he's having a lot of production today too, and then he just got carted off the field. Anyway, sorry,
Okay.
Tyler. Go ahead.
That's all right. Back to that. James White is a huge addition. We haven't really seen him get going with Cam Newton, and this is going to be a test for both teams, really. It's going to be a test for the Chiefs defense and the Patriots offense, and I think we're in for another great Pats-Chiefs game. It's going to be a close game. Last game was 27-20, and I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than that. I think Chiefs are really going to push the ball, try and push up the score, and I think Cam Newton's going to be able to keep up with them. Pats are going to be trying to do the opposite, running out the clock. They will feed Julian Edelman, though, and they will feed N'Keal Harry. And Pats wide receivers should be good. Pats running backs, 2 of them could have big days. I just don't know which 2.
I don't think anyone does except Bill.
No, and keep in mind that Kansas City Chiefs are the 27th ranked run defense as well this year so far. So that is, so could be another. Sony Michel had a great week last week, so I could see the Pats completely going away from that and going someone else. No, maybe he tries to build off of that because he hasn't put together 2 weeks, I don't think, that are good in a row in a Patriots uniform. So I don't know. I think Tyler's right with you don't know where it's going, but also it'd be a good week to start a Patriots running back if there's ever a week to do that. This is a good week to do it, but I don't think I can definitively say who's going to be that guy to start.
You look like a genius if you pick the guy that gets 3 touchdowns. It's all
right. Which is no one.
Yep.
And then looking at the Chiefs briefly, obviously Patrick Mahomes are going to roll out. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's obviously a good start this week. The Patriots have somewhat of a sound defense. Again, like I said, missing some key players this year, but they still have the McCourty twins. Still have Stephon Gilmore, among others. And given that Clyde became finally, pretty heavily involved in the pass attack last week, I think, there's a good opportunity for him to put up a solid fantasy day. As far as the wide receivers, obviously Tyreek Hill you need to play. Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, I want to talk about, and then Demarcus Robinson I'm probably benching. But Rob, what about those 2 other guys? Are you starting either one of them?
Patriots have a decent pass defense, not top 10, but just outside the top 10. Obviously spearheaded by the guys you had already mentioned. Better or worse run defense, so I could see Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I just never so obviously Tyreek Hill. Mecole Hardman, I think I actually like more now than Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins obviously put together the big week 1. Everyone picked him up. He didn't had a horrible week 2, and then came back with 7 catches and 62 yards last week, which is obviously a good week. Demarcus Robinson not Demarcus Robinson. We're not talking about him. Mecole Hardman had 4 receptions, on 6 targets for 81 yards and a touchdown, so had the better week. It's back and forth each week with these guys. Patriots are going to find a way to tee them up. I don't know. It's a Chief offense, so if you're between people, and you have like one of the either Hardman or Watkins, and then like someone maybe on a worse team, I'm starting one of these guys. But I couldn't say for sure who's going to be the guy this week between the 2 of them.
I feel very strongly about this. I feel that I am 100% would start Mecole Hardman over Sammy Watkins without a doubt, without hesitation.
I like him more.
And Gilmore has covered Sammy Watkins in the past, the reigning defensive player of the year. He hasn't got off to a great year, but the Pats secondary is much better than they've played so far, especially Gilmore. And they've kind of both gotten under each other's skins in the past, and Sammy Watkins has just kind of been shadowed by him. Bill likes to try and slow down Tyreek by double covering him and just lining up Gilmore and completely shutting down Sammy Watkins, and that's just not a favorable matchup for Sammy Watkins. And I am not even thinking about starting him, even in a 16-team league where you have 5 wide receivers. I am absolutely benching Sammy Watkins.
Yep. Now we'll look at the Bills and the Raiders. Obviously, the Raiders had a nice 2-0 start that was interrupted last week by our hometown team. Bills looking great. Josh Allen specifically having a fantastic year. We'll start with the Bills. Josh Allen, you're obviously playing. Rob, who else are you starting in this offense?
I'm starting to get really mad because I have the Broncos defense / special teams, and they almost returned a punt for a touchdown and got tackled by the kicker or the punter, not the kicker. That would make no sense. He guy missed the block on the punter. Sorry, I just got really frustrated because that's obviously huge points if they returned that. But the Patriots looked good against the Raiders last week, so and obviously Josh Allen has been firing the ball, 1,038 yards already with 10 touchdowns, only 1 interception. I am loving this Bills offense just in general, and then loving them even more against a Raiders defense that let up 36 to the Patriots, 24 to the Saints, and 30 against the Panthers. So I am getting ahead and starting as much as I can on this Buffalo Bills offense, specifically Stephon Diggs, and then I don't know. Cole Beasley seems to be the one that benefits more when they start throwing the ball around a lot. Had 6 receptions for 100 yards last week. Doesn't get the end zone as much as maybe John Brown does, but John Brown also doesn't receive the targets that Cole Beasley does. But so I think I'm going Diggs, and then if you need to start a flex, Cole Beasley might be good this week because I just don't trust that Raiders defense at all.
Yep, and then for the Raiders, Derek Carr, Josh Jacobs, you're rolling out Darren Waller. Comfortable to roll him out, even though he had a quiet week last week. Tyler, any other thoughts on that offense?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Darren Waller's due to have a bounce back week. The Pats obviously just game planned him out. But Hunter Renfrow got involved a little bit. I don't think I'm willing to start him quite yet, but definitely a stash if you're looking for another wide receiver, especially in PPR. Outside of that, hopefully Josh Jacobs also has a bounce back game. I mean, he's an RB1. You're not worried about him. But I guess the big guy that I'm keeping an eye on is Hunter Renfrow.
Yep.
Especially with all these injuries, I think Ruggs is still out. Didn't practice Wednesday. Brian Edwards didn't practice Wednesday. Did Zay Jones played, but that's Zay Jones. I mean, Nelson Aguilar drops the ball a lot. Actually looks a lot better this year, but still not great. So with Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards being out, I think Renfro's potential opportunity to start. I mean, the Bills' defense is known to be pretty good, but they haven't looked their best this year. So I don't know. I think I'm leaning more and more Hunter Renfrow than Tyler is, but either way, I think we kind of look at him as a guy that I'd pick up because especially the longer these injuries go to this Vegas team, which is weird to say, Vegas, but
yeah. Now we'll look at the Eagles going out to play the 49ers. We'll start with the Eagles first. Miles Sanders going up against the 49ers front this week, who still look decent. Their defense has still performed well without Nick Bosa, Solomon Thomas. Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz. Tyler, how are you feeling about them this week?
I'm feeling pretty good about Ertz. Goddard is not going to play this week. And to me, they have Jalen Reagor just got put on the IR for the Eagles. So I don't know who their number one receiver is going to be. Maybe it's Greg Ward, but obviously the guy that's going to lead the pass catchers is going to be Zach Ertz. The 49ers, Nick Mullins has looked good. He can move the ball. They can put some points up, which means the Eagles are going to have to score. It's a very tough defense, but with the Goddard
pass defense.
Yeah, with the Goddard injury, though, you're firing up Zach Ertz. You can't miss out on it if he has a big week, and hopefully he'll find the end zone a couple of times. I'm hesitating here and there because I want to like him a lot more than I do, but it's just a bad matchup this week.
Yeah, and then Rob, for the 49ers backfield, what are you thinking this week? Is Mostert coming back this week?
isn't taking part in practice Thursday's practice, so probably not.
Yeah,
He
so
hasn't
probably
played
not.
even a little bit, and even then, it's pretty limited. For me, I think the biggest
And
beneficiary is McKinnon. Still,
McKinnon, yeah, and then Jeff Wilson behind him. I'm not starting Jeff Wilson this week. McKinnon, you could probably fly if you need to, if you're missing out on Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook this week. But I think, they both had similar production or similar touches last week. I assume it'll be the same this week, and it'll be hard to tell who is going to be the main benefactor. So,
yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
Philadelphia team that actually, for everything bad that's gone on with them this year, a pretty decent top 10 run defense, and then a top 10 actually pass defense as well. So it's a good Philadelphia defense. I don't love either of them enough to start either of them. I know McKinnon was one of my pickup guys 2 weeks ago, but I actually was very shocked that Jeff Wilson Jr. was getting involved. They actually split almost everything, receptions and rushing. So they use him as the same kind of player. Wilson has is younger, so maybe they look at that as maybe just get Wilson more involved. Not enough, not enough in between to get. I'd rather start Juszczyk, but that's just me. That was for time.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see who they play in a close game because it was against the Giants. And
Is this
they
even going to be a
could
close game though?
36-9. Yeah, this one might not be close either, but I'm waiting to see before I drop Wilson. I'm waiting to see if he gets involved when they play a good team.
Mm-hmm. Now we'll look at the last game of the week, Monday Night Football. Falcons going to play at Lambeau, take on the Packers. We'll start with the Falcons.
That's what I'm saying is points.
Yeah.
Yep.
This will be a high-scoring game.
Two
Start
high-scoring
as many
teams, I think,
people
right?
in this game as you can. Calvin Ridley, though, did not practice today. Ankle injury, I believe, or ankle something. I don't want to say injury because I don't want it to be an injury. They don't play till Monday, so an extra day to recover. Hopefully, we'll see him out there, but we'll keep you updated on Twitter with that injury. Julio Jones, I think, will be coming back this week. Obviously, you're going to roll him out as Julio Jones. Russell Gage, probably not a start if Julio and Ridley end up playing. Hayden Hurst, you're going to roll out there. For the Packers, Alan Lazard
died.
Not going to be playing.
Having
core
surgery.
injury. Might be needing surgery, which will take him out for an extended period of time. But how about the backfield?
Adams even limited in practice still, so I don't even know. But like we said, it's a high-scoring game. But if Devonta Adams and Alan Lazard are out, does that just mean Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a must-start just because we assume the Packers are going to score?
Yeah.
Start MVS is what we're saying.
I agree with you.
I think you have to because we just said how high-scoring it's going to be. But then he's literally the only wide receiver left. The other two that I see here, Malik Taylor and Darius Shepard, have caught a total of Malik Taylor. Oh, that's Marcus Valdez-Scantling. I think Malik Taylor has 0 catches. And then Darius Shepard has 1 target for 0 catches.
The tight ends as well. I totally forget their names. I'm drawing a blank.
Mercedes Lewis had 1 catch last week.
Tonyan. That's
Big Bobby Tonyan. He did break out last week for 5 catches, 50 yards.
He could be another guy that finds the end zone. I think Devonta Adams has a better chance of playing than Julio Jones this week. But I'm definitely erring on the side of caution because it's a Monday night game. Definitely, if you're an owner of those guys, put them in your flex spot. That way you can swap them out for a wide receiver, running back, tight end, whatever you need to. And you can change it last minute. But if you're an owner of those guys and MVS is available as a free agent, you have to pick them up immediately.
I was going to say that. Regardless of whether you have Julio or Devonta Adams, make sure MVS is on your bench this week because it is the Monday night game. You're not going to have any other options at that point. So if you do keep them in your flex, you have literally no other option. You're going to have to start either them or MVS. So I'd make sure to have one of those in. And I guess if it is a flex spot, you can grab Robert Tonyan if it really comes down to that. But then you're hurt. You're putting yourself at a huge risk if that's your flex start.
Go down from Julio Jones or Devonta Adams to Robert Tonyan. Not a good trade.
None of us would have known if I didn't we didn't look up his name and then I didn't look up his name right here. But had a good last week. So I mean, if he does get 5 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown again 2 weeks in a row, it's a good flex start.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that pretty much wraps up our game previews, start sits for this week. Tyler is going to take us through Actually, Tyler, I'll let you introduce your own segment.
All right, boys. This is Tyler's gambling segment. We are not hot on the year right now. I'm laughing as I'm saying this, but that just means we're due, boys. We're due. That's what I'm going to call this segment. The boys are due.
Yeah.
All right. So this week I got a few picks for everyone. I got Cardinals -3. They're playing the Panthers. The Panthers are down Christian McCaffrey. Cardinals are got to be looking to bounce back against the Lion. I can talk myself into any bet, but the Cardinals are the clear favorite for me. I'm shocked the spread isn't a little more.
That is -3 is not a lot on them. Yeah, that's actually crazy.
And my next pick is going to be the Jags +3. Gardner Minshew has looked very good. I think he's going to be able to outplay Joe Burrow. Jags are a better. I want to say they're a slightly better built team, and I'm shocked that they're the underdogs in this, so I'm taking them +3. The game's definitely going to be close, but I got a good feeling about the Jags. And another pick I got is the Pats +6.5. Pats play the Chiefs so well. Belichick has Andy Reid's number. I know they lost last year to him, but that was on a bad call by the refs where they called N'Keal Harry out of bounds for a touchdown when he was completely inbounds, and the game should have went OT. So I think the +6.5 for the Pats is an easy one. And
yeah, don't even say they're going to win, just only lose by 3 even. A field goal or something.
Exactly. +6.5 means if they lose by 6 points, you win the bet. And my lock of the week is going to be the Seahawks at -6.5. This is definitely going to be a high-scoring game, but the Seahawks are going to be able to absolutely beat up the Dolphins. It's the Miami Dolphins versus the Seahawks. If I told you this game was happening earlier in the season, you would have thought the spread was 14.5. Yeah, 14. Yeah,
not actually
14, 15, 16. Russell Wilson, he could have another 5-touchdown game easily if he wants to, but the Seahawks could run out the clock as well. I got a really good feeling about this game, and then I got a parlay for everyone. Heavy favorites. We're parlaying the Ravens money line, Seahawks money line, and Rams money line. Those are all heavy favorites. I think the closest game for me is going to be the Bucs and Chargers, but when it comes down to it, Brady be able to beat Justin Herbert, no matter how well the Chargers defense plays. I think the Bucs got this one, and that is it. We're next week, boys. We are due.
So fade all those picks.
Thank you,
fade if you want.
Mastro.
I'm due.
Thank you, Mr. Mastro Marino, for your expertise in this matter. We will post those on our Twitter as well, so you all can see them. But that wraps up our content for this episode. We want to thank you guys so much, as always, for tuning in. Feel free to check us out on our Twitter and on our Instagram, and check out other YouTube channels. Rob will have all those links below. And again, we want to thank you so much. We love doing this for you guys, and we're going to continue to do this. Until next time, we will see you soon.
See ya.
Peace out, fellas.